This is Topline Hotline with your hosts AJ Bruno, Asad Zaman, and me, Sam Jacobs, where we answer questions from the go-to-market community every week. Top line, turn and face the top line. Top line. I'm gonna tell you for Sam. Top line, face to face. The top line. Welcome to Topline Hotline. Short segment focused on answering your burning questions from go-to-market. AJ Bruno, Asad Zaman, Sam Jacobs, three jovial fellas, three friends, three influencers, three content creators, three people in different places. Asad.
Okay.
How are you? We've got a question from the go-to-market community. They're going to ask us a question about something, and we're going to answer it. This is Topline Hotline. All right, over to you, Asad.
Let's do this. Okay, so this one's a fun one. My AEs currently are walking their ways to quota due to super high sales win rates, 50% plus, and inbound and partnerships demand that keeps them well fed. But I feel that we could be doing more, assuming they even have an hour or two per day for things like outbound outreach. I'm trying to determine what sorts of spiffs, comp plan incentives, games, competitions, pep talks have you found successful to incentivize AEs with outbounding? AJ, let's break this question up a bit. When a person is saying this person's question is specific to how do I drive this behavior? But if we take a step back, should they even be wanting to drive that behavior?
Of course, 100%. How long does this last? I mean, I think that there's going to be changes in the business that you're going to have this faucet get tapped off and turned off at some point. I had a friend's company in 2020 that was booming because of COVID, booming. And his biggest challenge is he knew that inbound demand was going to change in a year's time. And guess what? It changed. And guess what happened? They went straight down. So being able to like future proof and change that behavior now is a CRO's best and worst nightmare of what they need to be thinking about. And I've never found myself fortunate to be in this position, Austin. So I've never had this. So I'd actually be curious as to Sam, like what you're hearing or thinking about when you hear that the AEs are being fed with 50% win rates. We've talked about win rates. That's way too high of win rates. So how do we fix that first and foremost?
What I said, this comes from Pavilion. And I answered this question in Pavilion. And the first thing I said was the best way to improve morale is to pick two random people, perhaps your top performers, and just fire them. And fire them for no reason in public. Humiliate them. Just kidding.
Does that work?
No, it doesn't work. Don't do that. No, here's what I said. I took a different approach. First of all, everybody's, you can, what are of course you can try competitions, you can try spiffs, you can say whoever creates the most outbound opportunities, you can have some fun thing, Wheel of Fortune, and you can spin the dial and you can do all kinds of crazy competitions. But here's what I said. I said, there's so much happening in AI right now that maybe you can do almost a build in public kind of demo day competition where you encourage the AEs to find new workflows or new solutions using new tools that might include fixer.ai for, automated inbox routing and drafting, or it might include copy.ai for some workflow automation, or clay.com. But there's so many different, obviously I work with the guys at Fixer, but the point is, I think there's so many cool tools and there's so many new ways. I was thinking as we were talking on this week's main episode about brand that we do feel it's no longer the first inning, or it's no longer the national anthem before the game starts in terms of AI application. I am seeing people use AI more and more. Now, has it traversed the enterprise? No, I don't think it has. But our tinkerers, our experimenters, are people figuring out ways of doing data augmentation, of personalization at scale, of scraping LinkedIn content and creating posts or outbound based on that. I just think there's lots of really interesting AI use cases, and you could encourage the team to come up with what's the most innovative mechanism that they can use to drive outbound. So I think you can almost make it like a demo day kind of thing where you encourage them to build a new workflow that benefits the rest of the team. AJ, you have a comment.
Just on the point of that you're making in terms of new workflow, I think a new workflow would just, are we focusing on the right customers as the inbound, and are we putting the right speed bumps? And I was talking to a partner at a venture firm last week, and he won't touch any of the AI companies that are doubling. They're going from 1 to 2 million. Why? Because when he asks the companies about their retention, they won't talk to it. So these inbound leads that are coming in might have fantastic close rates. What's their retention rates would be my first and foremost. So if you're going to put speed bumps into it, is like, are we selling to the exact ideal customer profile that we want to sell? Asad.
I think the other part of it is that this is a very luxurious position to be in and is a good time to make some investments in creating more channels. I think so. This person saying we should do more outbound, I think that's actually the right thought process. But I think it should be beyond just, do I get the AEs to spend an hour a day on outbound? It's probably, you could try standing up a team that's a BDR team going into market, or opening some other channels, because as Sam said, channels saturate. And what you don't want is you capitalize on the momentum that these two channels, your partnerships and your inbounds, are driving. And by the time they saturate, you haven't experimented to uncover new channels. A few episodes ago, I think Sam had made the point that the reason CAC goes up over time is that, sure, you might get more efficient in one channel, but it saturates, and then you have to experiment and try new channels, and that's inefficient. So now is the time to deal with that inefficiency, so that when one saturates, you've actually got another one activated. Sam, do you think that, and AJ, your thoughts on this will be very interesting as well, since it's your space. Do you think compensation structures can be leveraged over here, where, let's say, for example, these AEs are getting a different commission rate if 100% of their revenue is generated from these channels versus if they have some self-sourced revenue? Is that the type of strategy that a person in this position should be thinking about?
I think that's a really good idea. If incentives drive behavior, if the behavior you're trying to drive is, because the other stat, by the way, is that self-source deals tend to have a much higher ACV, higher retention, and higher close rate. Well, that's not going to be true versus inbound. They might not have a higher close rate. They tend to be better quality deals because they tend to be more ICP driven, because the seller is much more focused on who is the right person to buy this, and why do they have pain, and why is this a good fit. And sometimes, again, there's creativity. John Barrows always talks, if you've ever hired him to do filling the funnel session, which is a day-long session that I've hired him a few times. I think I've hired him 3 different times to do it for 3 different companies. And he always talks about your tier 1 prospects, which are, you pick 5 new prospects every month, and you just make it a point that you're going to get meetings with 3 out of 5 of those prospects. And you do a ton of research and you do a ton of investigation. And so they're going to have, it's just going to be a higher value. It's going to be a higher value logo. It's going to be a higher value opportunity. It's probably going to be a better fit for the company. So I love the idea that maybe you pay a different commission rate. I think you have to be careful, but I think that that's probably behavior. That's exactly probably the right way to think about it. AJ, what do you think?
Yeah, on Tuesday of this week, of this launching of TOPLINE HOTLINE, we had a huge product release, and we feel that this is the next frontier to be the most adaptive commission platform on the market. And adaptive is a really important word. And what do I mean by adaptive? It means that if your company is going through this exact scenario, you need to have a platform that allows you to show visibility into all of the different incentive structures and the different opportunities that you have. We have a framework that we launched with multi-level approvals and with manager plans that allows this level of visibility for these reasons, because this is the biggest issue with these, is these incentives sit buried underneath all of your different comp plans. And so being able to pull up a level for these more mid-market growth type of organizations that are scaling is a really important feature that, just by listening to our customers, that's what we heard in the market. So this question is really timely, because it's something that 50% close rates and inbound That's not every single organization out there, but we're starting to see more and more of this pick up in the market. And so we need to be able to say like, whoa, 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 how do we ride this roller coaster and smooth it out? Just by being able to give the control to those incentives and being able to adapt with the business as it grows and scales. So something that we're thinking about and talking about, and it's really timely that we asked this question.
Do you think, as our resident sales comp expert, do you think that this is also a good reason to A, consider hiring more AEs, B, changing the quota to OTE ratio? Because it feels like I'd never want people walking their way to quota, because then they can skip their way to well above quota and accelerators. I think it has to be appropriately challenging, right? You don't, if 100% of your team isn't at the accelerator level, there's a problem. So are those two things that you would consider at this point?
Well, Asad, since you don't have quotas at your company, you just make this pretty easy for all of us. I think that I would prefer to look at the quotas and raise them and continue down this profitable and efficient growth, as Sam would say, and
peg it.
And make that really simple so that when you look at the numbers, you have reps that are fully productive in their dollars per full-time employee or continuing to rise before really adding headcount to. I think there's a fundamental question of like, how many demos a day is too many? How much opportunities can a rep have? We talk about this all the time in different sales performance tools, EPSTAs of the world, and what is like driving right behaviors and right incentives. It's fundamentally different for every organization, but I would tend to err towards raising quotas and therefore raising OTEs before hiring headcount.
Wait, actually, there's two options there. I just raised the quotas and I maintain my OTE, hence I've raised my quota to OTE ratio. The other is I'm raising my quotas, but I'm also raising OTE. Why did you pick this option?
Because you are effectively raising your OTEs. Because when you raise your quotas on that and the dollar amount that they're selling, they're continuing to hit those. So their dollars based on accelerators, I would assume, are actually going up. So their sales to earnings ratio is actually what's going up. Quota to OTE, we've gone through the math on this, but the ultimate piece to this is that they are selling dollar to dollar more and they're earning dollar to dollar more because your OTE is your lagging. You raise them after the fact. They've already been blowing out their quotas, I assume, in this model, and therefore their earnings are going to be above that OTE number anyway.
Got it. Sam, maybe this is where we can end it. One of the posts that I think you made a long time ago that has been saved by many sales leaders is the calendar check for whether or not you should hire new people. And I think the premise of your post was that most people torture financial models and then the financial model tells them things and they believe it. And one of the things that tortured financial model tells you is to go hire more salespeople to hit more revenue numbers. And that just doesn't, life is not that easy. And so you came up with the calendar check. Can you tell us what this calendar check is and how to use it to decide if it's time to hire another person or not?
Sure, it's very simple. Open up the calendars of your sellers and figure out, do they have, and my number is 3. And this is not 3 net new. You don't have to it's 3 meetings a day with people that don't work at the company. And I don't mean like their coach or their therapist. I mean somebody in a sales cycle. Could be a discovery call, could be a qualification call, could be a negotiation call. Are they talking to 3 people a day that are potential customers of your product? And that would be 15 meetings a week. And most of the time, the answer is a resounding no, most of the time. Now, in the case of this person that asked this question, the answer is affirmatively yes, in which case it might be time to hire more people. But most of the time, the answer is no. Most of the time, you open up a rep's calendar and they've got 2 or 3 meetings all week, let alone 3 meetings a day. And so in that case, the answer is no, do not hire more people because you haven't. It's the point we're recording this on a day where I have a nice little double, a ground rule double, a good solid hit on LinkedIn. And it talks about this very idea that hiring more salespeople doesn't generate demand, or at least to the point of, listen, if you're going to get them to do outbound, maybe it generates more demand. It's very expensive. It's the most expensive way to generate demand. And so the answer is look at their calendar. If they're talking to a bunch of people that don't, then most of the time they're not doing much. Most of the time that means you don't need to hire any more people. And that's all. It's very straightforward, very easy. That's
Some
my
of the
answer.
most beautiful things in business are very simple. People think that making and building and running great businesses is supposed to be all these complex things, and there's complexity in some areas, but there's a lot of simplicity as well that is beautiful. That was great.
Thanks everybody for listening to Topline Hotline. AJ Bruno from a sauna somewhere in the Poconos. Asad Zaman from Toronto, where they've gone from no days of sunshine to 100 degrees, and me from a hidden bunker, a hidden upscale bunker
Sipping
in
wine.
Northern California. Exactly. Thanks everybody for listening. Give us 5 stars and go to joinpavilion.com/topline-newsletter to sign up for the new Topline newsletter that it comes out on Thursday. So it'll come out today. It's edited by our very own Asad Zaman, the editor-in-chief. And once in a while, me and AJ will contribute something as well. Thanks a lot.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.